Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show. As always, bringing you the best. A huge discussion today with my guest, because my guest is literally redefining how we think about heart health and longevity. Dr. Mel is a naturopathic physician and mind body medicine expert, and the creator of the Biohacked Heart Blueprint, a root cause approach to cardiovascular health that goes far beyond cholesterol and medications. Big deal. After working with thousands of patients and hosting international healing retreats, she's known for blending science, nervous system regulation, and lifestyle transformation into practical systems that actually work. Her mission is simple: help people protect their hearts, restore their energy, and reverse chronic conditions naturally. Please welcome Dr. Mel.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, now listen, it's amazing, doctor. And just as I'm doing this introduction, this world that we live in, I mean, as a humans, heart is important. We need it, right? and
Oh,
and
yeah.
sadly, we hear a lot more of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, and we hear about treatments that are conventional treatments with drugs and stuff, surgery, open heart surgery. I mean, I personally, my partner in business and his brother, they both had different surgeries with the heart.
Oh, wow.
It runs in the family. This is actually maybe a show that I dedicate to them because it is big in the family, and we hear this all the time around us. People having tough times with heart, heart failure, congestive heart failure, all these terms. But you're a naturopath, so that's a little bit different from your regular, doctor. Now, let's talk about that. I mean, do you only do naturopathic medicine? Are you also in the general terms of medicine? And let's talk about why we even have heart problems.
Right. Yeah. So I can and occasionally do prescribe medication, but that's never going to be a go-to or a fix it and forget it for me. It's always going to be just like a crutch or a band-aid for a moment in time. And even the same thing too, like a lot of my colleagues might just use supplements in place of medications, right? So you could, and I don't really agree with that either. It's like you're using a supplement to take away symptoms but not going after the root cause. But what I've found is that if we do go after the root cause and use a systems based approach, that you don't need anything to lower your blood pressure because you just have better blood pressure. And if you
Well,
start,
doctor,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead. No, no, please go ahead.
Well, if you start at the beginning, what I find, it's always in there, and no one really is talking about this, is it all starts with stress. It all starts with stress. And it could be like, maybe you're a hothead and you're yelling at everybody, but it could just be mental gymnastics all the time, or emotions. And then what comes in is like maybe some grief, like a big loss, which is just bigger stress and emotions. And then this sets off a cascade in the body. But what I found with the people that are attracted to me and that I work with is that it's just been long, decades long chronic stress. And eventually that adds up in a hormonal cascade, and the body just sends you a bill.
Well, doctor, so root cause, right? That's a big word, and unfortunately, for the most part, today's medicine, and whether we like it or not, it's more for you diagnose, there's a prognosis, there's a treatment. We manage the pain, we manage the symptoms, we manage the aftermath, right? But no one is really, well, I won't say no one. I mean, you're doing it, and some people are doing it, but the majority practice is not into let's eliminate the source of this problem in the first place, and therefore there wouldn't be, any problems with the heart disease, right? It would be like something that vanishes. Uh, One thing we hear about also is cholesterol
Yeah.
is bad for you. It's the cause of plaque in the heart arteries, and therefore it can shut down the system, and it's bad for you. So guide us through the myths that
Oh,
are
yeah.
happening, because this is really a big topic, and we've been informed or misinformed. I don't know. You tell us, about
Yeah.
how that really is. What's the truth?
And that could be a big part of like how we got here too, because we've been given a lot of misdirection and misinformation when it comes to cardiac health. But the whole cholesterol thing, it's been a huge distraction, right? It's been like tunnel vision on just squishing cholesterol, right? Well, your liver makes most of your cholesterol, right? And it's making it for a reason. You're and all of our sex hormones are made on a backbone of cholesterol. Vitamin D, which everybody now knows is super necessary for good health, is made on a backbone of cholesterol. And our brains and our nerves and how they talk and connect is made out of a substance made out of cholesterol, right? And something that I've noticed, because I'm 44, right? So I like over 20 years ago, I had a friend. He was going to the university, some kind of scientist, and he wanted to find a cure for dementia because his grandmother had dementia. At that point in time, I was like, wow, that sounds terrible. I didn't know anyone that had dementia, like 20 years ago. But now, fast forward, I think we all know someone, or at least someone close to us, that has someone that has dementia, right? And what have we been kind of feeding all the elders for a couple decades now, just as a status
Yeah.
quo? It's just something that made me think
Cholesterol,
back. Yes, and
statins.
cholesterol lowering meds. And the other thing is, I was just at this. There's this really cool imaging you got to tell your friends about called Clearly, and it uses the CT scan with some AI imaging, and it can tell you each artery in the heart, how much plaque is in there, what kind of plaque, and is it stable or dangerous or what's going on. So it gives you a real roadmap, right? Which is fabulous. But they have this case study. And for me as a naturopath, it was cringy because they had squished this fella's LDL cholesterol to like really sub physiological levels, and knowing all the good stuff it's supposed to be doing for you, I was like, ooh, had him on multiple cholesterol lowering medications. And then they did this really awesome imaging. And you know what they found? He was full of plaque. So he had like
Oh.
no cholesterol. They like squished down with multiple meds and he was full of plaque. So they decided he needed more cholesterol lowering medication. And then they did the scan. I don't know if it was like in 6 months or 12 months. And guess what? He had more plaque. So it's, for us on the outside, it's pretty obvious that that's not really working out, but I felt like I was in the twilight zone when no one in the room was seeing that. And they're like, yeah, let's put some more meds on on top of that. But it's not giving the payoff that we've been kind of brainwashed to think that it would. Then it's having some negative effects of, right, we don't have sex hormones, we don't have vitamin D, our brain and our nervous system isn't working as good, right? On top of the typical ones that you hear about, like the muscle pain and even short-term memory loss, right? But the biggest problem is it's a false peace of mind because you think I'm squishing down this cholesterol. I'm so good. I'm taking care of my heart. Meanwhile, the damage is still happening, and that's the biggest problem with it.
Doctor, so I want to just backtrack a little bit because cholesterol. Well, first of all, I've heard, and I do my research. I've done this for about a few years. I've been in the healthcare, on the insurance side. So statins were always part of our formularies. you
Yeah. Oh,
you need
yeah.
like people ask you like which drug do you carry, right? That's always been a question that we used to get, and at least when we present our products, right? But let's talk about this. I mean, I'm hearing now more it's more outburst of discussions and reels and information that says that the LDA's numbers or the actual cholesterol numbers, good and bad, that we know that's been promoted, that's really not what they're supposed to be. That's one. And
That's
is
one.
that even a true thing or not? Because I think that's a huge thing. Because we trust our doctors, right? I go to my doctor, they say, okay, your cholesterol is this. They give you the page of your, lab work. It says your number. Oops, you're like, over. Oh my God. And now, like, so you have to make a decision. Like as I mentioned, my best friend and my partner, has he's been on cholesterol medicine for years, right?
Right.
He's young enough, and he started a long time ago. And a lot of folks are in these drugs. My mom got maybe she rest in peace now, but as at a certain point, I decided to stop that with her, not just to give her any more of that because I read all the bad effects of this
Right.
stuff, and I'm like, no, we're not doing this. And I explained to her, she was okay with it, and that was the end of it. But really, we're given information that is not accurate, or at least not in the regular medicine. Maybe it is, but in real world, is not really the main effect, right? That's one. Two, you mentioned something about stress. Stress is something we're living with right now in every
Yes.
single aspect of our life, right? So that's one. That's two. Three, we've always been told that you eat fats, you eat, butter, you eat all the stuff.
Right.
That's bad for you. Cholesterol's going to go bad. Let's go to eat this other stuff that is fake, margarine, whatever, those other products that are out on the market, you know. And so we're literally, as consumers, we don't even know. I mean,
Right.
for the most part, we just live our lives until we get a pain or something, or we go to doctor once every now and then. We do a checkup. Oops, these numbers are not looking good. Here's what's the course of action. Do this.
Right.
You know. So let's talk about, like, are these real
Right.
things? What we do about them? How did it even come up to be? And frankly, you biohack, the system through your own way, right? And we're going to talk about
Yeah.
that shortly. But let's talk about that. I mean, are those LDL numbers correct? I mean, is really cholesterol bad? Because I just heard that brain requires cholesterol. We need it.
Yeah. Loves it.
So let's talk about the technical stuff here.
So it's yeah, the whole thing is like bad cholesterol and good cholesterol it's not really true, and they do keep lowering an acceptable LDL level because certain medications, it's $1 trillion a year industry. It's big money, and I'm sure that most doctors are very well meaning, but like most of them just stay in their lane. It's tunnel vision. So it's not to badmouth or trigger anybody, but if you just step back and look at it, or even draw it out, I love to draw the pathways on the board. It doesn't make sense to hyper focus on the cholesterol, right? So I don't ever get upset about people's LDL or cholesterol. And if HDL is low, like we'll do a couple things to kind of bring that back up. But what really needs to be looked at isn't being looked at. That's the other problem, right? So it's like people might think they're okay because they're squishing down their LDL, but there's other things. So it's more about inflammation. So we got to be checking like these basic inflammation markers, and it's really a lot about insulin. It's more about insulin than anything else, and it's more about insulin than cholesterol. And it hasn't become routine to check fasting insulin, which I think is insane because in America, something like 88% of people are insulin resistant, but we're not checking. So this is something that's really easy to unwind simply with herbs and lifestyle hacks, and that people can even reverse their prediabetes, their diabetes, and of course their insulin resistance. And this is going to decrease the overall body inflammation, decrease fluid retention, right, which would make higher blood pressure and damage the blood vessels. It does fat accumulation, which we all hate, right? Nobody likes having a belly. Well, you might have some higher insulin if that's going on. Don't jump to the peptides. Let's do the insulin first. Um, but yes, and then there's stickier, like stickier little cholesterol guys that we might want to look at because they can be troublemakers, and we need to know. And then and a lot of them do respond to this lifestyle stuff like detoxing, disinflaming, getting the insulin down. And then we've got to go after the gut, which might sound crazy. It's like gut, I'm talking about my heart here, but all of our guts are inflamed and leaky. And my theory is it's from the chemicals in the food supply, and other things. But that inflammation leaks out of the gut, and then we're a whole system, right? And so that can cause systemic inflammation, which can raise your blood pressure, damage your blood vessels, and just have so many effects that we couldn't even name them all, right? So these are some of the steps that we have to do. And the thing with like focusing on the LDL is so silly because the body is a system of systems, right? So it responds really well to a systems based approach that just cleans up the terrain. And when we clean up the terrain, it's like, man, the body is incredible and it can just heal itself. Because even if we weren't trying and we're eating like, chemical food and being stressed out every day, your body will still grow an extra artery like over your clogged carotid, like just on its own, right? Or an extra artery on your heart because all the other ones are, and that's while we're actively poisoning ourselves, right? So what if we gave it the right environment? I mean, doesn't it make sense that that these things that we're told are forever, like could be replay, could be reversed? I remember growing up, I was afraid of butter. I was sure if I eat butter, I was going to die of a heart attack. I was like,
That was what we were told. Yeah.
and then I realized that you need fat to feel full and have a stable, metabolic baseline. And then everything's built on top of that. Whereas these fake butters, I can't believe it's not butter. What is it?
Uh,
Probably something we shouldn't be eating, is damaging the blood vessels. But yeah, that was like a little bit of a rant, but there you go.
well, thank you. And by the way, I love how you've really stated the key culprit, the insulin. And so, if you don't mind, Doc, so there's a couple of things. I call them the three stooges, right? Once you have diabetes, insulin resistance, whatever causes diabetes, then you have blood pressure and they have
Yep.
cholesterol. These three come together, and you get like the three meds, right? So whatever those the statins and the losartans, and you get
I
the
call it the
insulin or
cocktail,
the cocktail,
the
the
typical
metformin,
cocktail.
right? Yeah, those three things, they come in like a nice little dish, right? And it's a sad statement, but a lot of people would actually have those, and I know because those are the three questions that we always had. Like, do you have these drugs, covered in this policy? And especially I work with senior markets, so it is real. And but so insulin resistance, how does that work? In our body, like, what does that mean? I mean, 80% of Americans have that, and I'm sure
Yeah.
maybe that rate will be different in other parts of the world. But really,
Or
if we
not. Who
can,
knows?
or yeah, maybe if we can understand it, I think we all can do something about it and kind of drop
Right.
it down. And so now the other thing you mentioned, before you answer that question, is dementia. Now it is a statement now that we hear today that dementia is diabetes type 3. I mean, hello. I mean, folks, you're watching and listening. This is, I mean, there might be some rant here, but the idea is that we are being tested in our own health, and it's all preventative or preventable rather, because we can do something about it, but we have to understand what it is, what's real, what's not real, and how can we navigate the system. Now, certainly we have Dr. Mel to guide us through this process, but so if you don't mind, can you just break this down, break us the idea of insulin resistance and what it does, because I think as soon as we understand it, we can
Yeah.
all do something about it, right?
Right. So it's like anyone that is a human that eats food and has any level of stress, which is probably everyone, you really want to look at this because you have to have an open mind, right? Because people will come and go, oh well, my hemoglobin A1C is fine, and it's like, okay, but what's your insulin, or have you done a continuous glucose monitor? Because even if you're not insulin resistant, if you're riding a roller coaster all day, does it make sense that that's not going to be a healthy way to live, right? Like if we're going to build any kind of health, if you're trying to heal your autoimmune disease or whatever, if you're riding a glucose and insulin roller coaster all day, you're not going to be able to do that. And it's going to be damaging the artery wall. So first of all is to know that yes, this does matter to you, right? It's like no one is exempt from like needing to know how to learn how to do this. And the other thing is a lot of things that we were taught, and I know that we're in different areas, but we were taught eat 3 meals a day plus snacks. That is a setup for insulin resistance. I grew up, I was the hangry, low blood sugar kid, and they would just be like, feed her, feed her, feed her. She gets mean. And what happened later, and this is one of the reasons I'm so nuts about this, is that so here I am, the naturopathic doctor, and I'm working out and I'm doing the ice baths and the meditation and the whole foods diet, blah, blah, blah. And I stressed myself into becoming pre-diabetic. And I was just like, oh, I'm getting older. I think people, they get a little thicker as they get older. And I waited to do my labs because I was busy. I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I'm gonna do it later. And then I did it and I was like, oh hell no, right? Like I needed to see it, and then I put all the pieces together, and I got pissed off enough to take action. And that's what people need to do, because the system is set up to think that we're lazy and we're babies and we just want a pill for our ill, and that never works. And now we all know it comes with side effects. Unless you're hiding under a rock, medications come with side effects, right? And then
uh,
eventually they don't work with our high blood pressure people. They just keep throwing stuff at you, and they're praying to God, and and nothing's working, right? So I had to do a deep dive on metabolism, right? And we need to eat less often. And how do you do that is by, you got to eat less carbs. And a lot of things that you think are healthy are not reacting well with your metabolic system. So that's why I have everyone do that continuous glucose sensor, because I can blah, blah, blah all day. People don't care. When they see it in real time on their phone, what's interacting with them, then they get the buy-in. This is the best thing I've found for actual patient compliance and longevity is like making them do that for 2 months and then giving them the guidelines, because things that you think are fine, you'll be like, man, that was not a healthy snack for me, and everyone's different. So there's that glycemic index, but it's more of just like kind of a guideline because different people, different levels of stress, different genetic heritage will interact with different foods differently. So you just don't know until you know. So that's one of the things. And I really don't think that our ancestors were eating 3 meals a day plus snacks. Like that sounds stupid, right? When you think about it.
Well, doctor, you're right. I mean, again, there are cultures where they don't eat that, and actually, I stopped doing 3 meals a long time ago. I do a light breakfast, and my dinner is lunch. It's usually like at 4:35. That's typical. I mean, sometimes obviously we have an exception, but that's kind of
Yeah.
like what I stick in. And you're right. Like, do we need all that? Food and not only that, something funny. You said like you were told not to eat butter because it's bad for you, but then we are told cereal is the best deal that you have. The breakfast of the champions, right? It's in the movies, it's everywhere. It's all around us, right? And actually, when you're younger, and especially if you're watching a lot of movies, you can see that every time you see breakfast, you're gonna see orange juice, you're gonna see a bowl of cereal, and that's really the cool. And then there's a coffee mug somewhere in there in that picture, and some maybe some slice, some toast, or like some what do you call them? Cheese sandwich, right? It's like literally you see this and it becomes part of nature, like our natural status. That's the way it's supposed to be, but it's not, because you're right. I mean, that's the other thing. Even the breads that I mean, we have breads, right? Everything is carbs right now. I mean, you start your day with plenty of carbs, and you end with plenty of carbs because you do a little dinner, maybe snacks, pasta is big. And by the way, even those things are different. If you go to Italy, for example,
Right.
the food is different. So you might indulge in some of these, these breads and stuff because they're, are real. There is no, enriched stuff. They're not really sugary. They're the sourdough, breads, for example, are different, right? So there's different things. So nutrition is a big deal. So I think it
Yeah.
starts with the environment, nutrition, and if these two, and of course, us understanding what's really meant for us, our ancestors, you're right. I don't think they ate all that stuff. As a matter of fact, historically speaking, people hunted and ate when they found food, and they waited until the next meal, whenever they got the next, kill, whatever they called that at that time. Obviously, we're not going all the way back to the Stone Age, but even in past centuries, people had different, scale of food, right? And even scarcity food was not really the stuff we have now. I mean, our tables are amazingly drafted. I mean, it's like
Right.
a piece of art, right? When you see a full, table, spread, right? And we were told color food, right? Green, blue. I mean, all this. So there's a lot of stuff that we're being told. The question is, who is giving us information? How accurate information, and what is it doing to us? And that's the problem. Unless we do some extra research on our own, it's not like, to your point, you see in your glucose going up and down on a consistent basis. Oops, you do the panels and you see like, oh, that's not good. Now you're rebellious. You want to do something about it, and that makes a difference. You're a doctor, you can figure this out. Most of us, we're
Yeah.
just being told what to do. So so
Yeah.
so now you have, and by the way, you meant something about the terrain. I mean, so is that what you refer to as your terrain based health, like,
Yeah,
uh,
it really is about the terrain. Like I think in every area of medicine, it's been too hyper focused, right?
mm,
Like cancer's been tumor focused, but what allowed like the tumor to grow? The
mm,
terrain, right? And that's why, and it's very emotional and energetic, like all diseases are too. So if you don't repair the terrain and you don't repair the mental and emotional patterns that got you there, then it makes sense that things would come back, or they would come back but like a little bit differently, right? And so it's like we have to go on a layer by layer approach where we get it, right? So if we're humans, right? So we got to see the positive feedback so we get some buy-in, so then we'll do the next thing, you know but then that's what I found with the way that I've kind of set this up, because I know how I am, right? And like if something's long and boring, like I'm out, right? Like, so we have to get like those that win, so we get a buy-in, so then we can do the next thing. Like I never ask anyone to just take out all the 12 offending inflammatory foods right off the bat. They're going to hate me and never call me again, you know, right? So I give them like a really nice herbal detox where they have more energy, they have less inflammation, their blood pressure and their blood sugar is getting better, they're having better bowel movements. It's like all wins. And so, and maybe they lost some weight. So then now they're bought in. Now I'm going to show them the list and invite them to put a date on the calendar when we're going to take these things out to get that next level of detoxing. And anybody out there, you like, it's 2026, you have to detox, and not just once a year. It's like we're just getting hit on all angles. So detox isn't just for hippies anymore. It's for everyone that wants to be healthy, and thrive. And just like you said, like the other thing that everyone can start right now is get down to 2 meals a day, no snacks. Also go with the sun. So no working out, no working, no eating after the sun goes down is better with a circadian lifestyle, not having bright lights in the house in the evening. All of this is going to be more natural for your body. We naturally go with the sun, and everything's going to heal so much better if you adapt that. And that's easy. If someone's brand new, I just say stop going to the drive-throughs. Like just start there. Like don't go to fast food. Like that's just start with one thing or you're going to get overwhelmed, right? So just stop going to the drive-throughs. Like when you want to go, just don't do it. You know? Like, start with that. And then number two is get rid of the processed foods. Like if it comes in a bag or a box and there's a paragraph explaining what it is, probably not in your best interest. Probably just those, that's the best way to start. And then it's the eating less often. Even just with those, if you need to lose weight, you're going to lose weight. If you're inflamed, you're going to disinflame. And making it a lifestyle, not like, oh, I'm doing this little health diet thing. No, no, this is like the map to live well, you know, just like pushing through until it becomes habit.
Well, thank you. Well, you mentioned something. So first of all, I love that the detox, right? So exercise, nutrition, and detox, or we refer to it as "and," right? And get away with the crap, stuff. Get out of it. The caffeine and refined sugars and all that. So the acronym works, right? But you mentioned something about the gut, right? The gut we know now it's the second brain, it's microbiome, it's mitochondria for the cells and all the stuff, but you mentioned leaky gut. Can you explain to us what that looks like and what are some of the causes? I mean, you mentioned something about the poisonous food that we eat and all the chemicals that's actually
Yeah.
really destroying our gut lining, right? So it's stuff. But what happens when somebody has a leaky gut, and how can we fix that? I mean,
Yeah.
let if you don't mind, if you just want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like we've got these cells, you know, in the intestines, and they're supposed to be like tiles, like butted up against each other, but then they just get fried. And so things are leaking through and they're getting into the other parts of the system. And in our body, being well-meaning, right? Because it is like this divine machine is like, oh, this doesn't belong here. Inflammatory cascade, which is the immune system doing its job. So maybe it's a molecule of a blueberry, but the body is going parasite, foreign substance, like let's do this little attack plan, right? Well, if that's happening all the time, then all sorts of inflammatory cascades are coming. And it's not like I'm allergic to pineapple, my lips blow up immediately. It's insidious, right? So you can't even really tell it's going on. But once that level of inflammation's lifted, I mean, you feel like $1 million. And like the first things to do is like you got to get less toxins, get off the fake chemical food. And then if you have digestive stuff, anybody, and I know a lot of people do, like you're bloating, you're whatever, you just got to eat less often. Like give the system a break. The system's trying to tell you something. Everybody cool, like Jesus, Buddha, like everybody was fasting. Everyone does so good on intermittent fasting. So we hear all these biohackers talking about it. It's because it's so good for the body. So if the body's funky, fast. If you're metabolically stable enough to handle it, fast. If you're just like stuck in a funk, do a 3-day water fast because you're going to heal mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Like that is like the best thing that we can do, right? What I have clients do is I do the herbal detox, right? Because also everyone is kind of full of crap, even if you're like, oh, well, I'm pretty regular. It's like, yeah, you're still full of crap because that's just the way it is. And so we do a gentle colon cleanse, and people will be like, where is this coming from? Right. But it's got to come out. Right. Because or else we're doing auto self intoxication. Right. So we've got to clean out the colon and we've got to disinflame and eat less often and eat less, sugary things that are going to be rocking our metabolism. And after that, I have people do an herbal kit that kind of takes out all the bad bacteria overgrowth. But first disinflame, make sure all the pathways are moving, and then do that. And it's crazy because people that had bloating problems. I had a guy that had acid reflux his whole life. He went to all the doctors. Everyone's like, I don't know, like surgery, like we don't know what to do with you. And he just was pounding tums like his whole life. And in just like 2 or 3 weeks on the gut kit, no more of those symptoms after like a lifetime of it, right? So of course it's going to heal the GI tract, but we're really doing it for that systemic effect. And if you're really a gut or immune person, I would go further and do some specialty lab testing, and see if you have any food sensitivities, which you probably do. And when those come up, I always check IgG and IgA, so you get the mucosal and the slow onset reactions, and then just take all of them out for 3 months, with like no cheat days, and that allows the body to heal itself. And it's amazing just doing that. I've seen people's like migraines, earaches they've had their whole life, like sinus infections they've had their whole life, just go away just doing one round of that. And then there's either gut healing combinations, or there's that great peptide, BPC 157. I don't know if you knew, it heals the entire GI tract from like esophagus to rectum. So that's really nice for anyone that's had a lot of immune or gut stuff after they get things kind of cleaned out for healing. And it's also nice because it bypasses the blood brain barrier. So it's anti inflammatory for the brain, which is super nice. Interesting fun fact on that peptide: years ago, my old secretary had a big son, 15, big boy, like 6'2", but he was very autistic. He was almost kind of like a baby, and he couldn't talk. And so that was when I was just getting into peptides, and we put him on the BPC 157. And I'm not even kidding you, within like 2 or 3 weeks, the kid started talking at 15. And right, so it's doing the gut and the brain, which what we kind of know about autism, like that's like their soulmate treatment. And this kid had not talked until 15, and just being on that peptide, he started talking in a few weeks, which was like a miracle. So I always tell everybody, like anything, like you might want to try. And so capsule, easy.
Well, doctor, let's talk about peptides. Can you expand on them? Because we hear about them, but how they work? What are they? I mean, what's
Yeah.
their, where do we get them?
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
sure
mean, I
there's
think
a way.
everybody's got them now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, what about the detox? Also, like if you can, we can guide us through, like, what that looks like. And you said let's detox, like, a
Yeah.
colon detox or a gut detox. These are like real cool things. I know, obviously, we want people, to hear about
Yeah.
this and get excited,
Yeah.
and
So
hopefully they
so
can
we have
connect
an
with you.
herbal detox that we put pretty much everybody on. And it's whether you're working on your blood pressure, your heart, your autoimmune, your hormones. Like it's just everybody that wants to work with us, like it's pretty much like they have to detox gut insulin. Like I don't like, it doesn't matter like what you're working on and your stress. Like that's everybody's kind of baseline, right? Everyone's got to do that. So we put them on the herbal detox. It's going to hit inflammation, liver, colon, regeneration. And then I give them the list. And there's always like 1 or 3 things they're going to cry about on it, right? Which is like alcohol. Some
Mm.
people, they have to really work up to that one. And it's only for 2 weeks. Coffee, caffeine, right? Because there's other caffeinated beverages, but that just keeps us on that like dopamine loop, and it clogs up the liver, right? What else do they get upset about? Dairy. Some of the people, of course, processed food, pork and peanuts, depending on the person. And I'm sure I'm missing a few, like wheat. It's like the common offenders, the common inflammatory response ones, and then obviously no processed or packaged foods. So I usually have them put it on their calendar, like quitting smoking, so they can. I show them the list from the beginning, so they can get mad about it and have like a come to Jesus moment with it. I'm like, okay, just this is happening. So put it on the calendar. If you need to go have extra pasta and wine before you do it, whatever, like this is what's next. And the funny thing is, it might suck the first 1, 2, or 3 days. Maybe people get a headache, whatever, feel tired. But then almost no one rushes in at 2 weeks to put the stuff back in. Like almost everybody, it just trickles back in around 5 weeks because they feel so good and they've pushed through that like mental attachment to like the habit or whatever it is. And what I recommend is that everybody do it quarterly, right? Because we just, like we fall off, we make excuses, and it's like, and we're always getting toxins from places things that we can't even see. And so I really encourage all my clients to do that. Now, if they are heavier and they want to lose more than like 20, 25 pounds, I'll even have them do that 2 months in a row. Usually it's a 1 month process. But if they've got more than 25 pounds they want to lose, then I'll have them do that 2 months in a row. And then we go into the gut. And then if they're more of a gut person, we'll do more after that initial herb thing. And the whole time we're working on glucose and insulin, which is going to make everything work better, like the gut, the inflammation, everything. And the biggest pushback I probably get is on the nervous system reset. Everyone, because we have a live every Wednesday, right? And everyone always has excuses to like miss it, but it's almost like the most important one, right? Because I've found this pattern in people's labs, like because people that come to me, most of them are trying, they're not doing a standard American diet. Some of them even think they're doing everything, but you're never doing everything, right? Because we have blind spots and we don't know everything. But it's like in the labs, and it's like this chronic stress metabolic mess. Like it's like I've just been seeing it in everyone. I'm going to write a paper about it because I'm like, man, why is nobody talking about this? This is crazy. And like what happens is we're on, like maybe you've been on since you were a little kid, just been on, like in survival mode, so that now we don't even know how to take our foot off the gas. And so the mind is pumping out all this cortisol and adrenaline, and then it leads to that cascade where cortisol raises our glucose before we've even put any cupcakes in our mouth, right? Just mentally. And then that raises our insulin. And I think that's part of this epidemic of the insulin resistance is the chronic stress. And it's not just mental. It could be from like feeling all the Wi-Fi radiation. And it could be from you have back pain. That's stressful on the body and can raise the glucose, right? So we're already getting higher glucose and insulin before we've put any food in our mouth. And I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm stressed out, I don't always make the best food choice decisions.
Don't go there. I I think everyone they will agree that we all just
Right?
crunch
So
whatever we can find and open anything and just munch. That's a
you don't
standard
understand. I
response.
need this cupcake.
We see that. I mean, it's a very standard thing that that you're upset, you get into some sweets, you want to just get a little happy about it. But it's the dopamine hit, doctor, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I love what you said. The problem is all these things are addictive. So they're
Yeah.
all addictions, and because of the dopamine, feeling that we get from it, no one wants to detach from them because they really feel good things, right? But we're feeling good for temporary phases, but then we don't feel good because we're just down, we're no mood, we're just blah blah blah. Your body doesn't want to respond, you just literally don't want it. And I love, thank you again for reiterating the idea of cortisol increases the insulin resistance, and therefore that's a problem, and the glucose rather. And I mean, I would not. I mean, personally, I've been in healthcare and I've done this for many years, and and I'm still discovering some. Talking about biohacking, this is the stuff that really we need. I think there should be like elementary, education. Everybody should learn these in elementary school, but we don't have that. Not even if you go to biology, because it's
I
not what the
know.
curriculum is about. So it is important. So now is this, by the way, the biohack heart blueprint that you used? I mean, this is part of the
It's
blueprint
part of
itself.
it. And it's a non-negotiable because so many people, because of the culture and the mind, they're like, just give me the IVs, just give me the heavy lifters. But it's like it's not gonna have the effects. It's not gonna have the longevity. Like I have a client that he's real squirrely because he's got this big international business and he loves running it. And he's gone and done the plasma exchange and the EBU and all of this. And I've been chasing after him to get his labs done. He didn't want to do it, right? For like a year. And I finally got it. Even with all these big, fancy, expensive biohacking treatments, the labs was like a hot mess, right? And I told him, I said, look, dude, like this is your come to Jesus time, right? I know you've been squirrely, but like you've done all these other amazing things in your life. I just need that one neuron to touch your other neuron on your brain and like decide to do this, you know? And so, and I said, like, obviously the heavy duty treatments are not cutting it, right? Because you've done all of them, right? Like we need to do the foundations. Like if we wanted to build a house, like we'd have to find some dirt, and then we'd have to clear the plants. We have to work the dirt. You know, we can't paint the dirt. We got to build a house on it, you know? Right? So it's just like, and that's the same thing with the peptides. Like, I like peptides, I like hormones, but I don't like to leapfrog to them. I find that if we want like effects, we have to start with the foundation. And then after we get that, you know, then I do the heavy lifting IVs to heal the damage that's already done, you know, and then we can look at hormones because hormones actually can repair the inside of the blood vessels. Did you know that? Like hormones can actually repair endothelium. I'm like, psh, you know, on top of like, of course, everyone wants to be fit and have a healthy sex drive and, you know, not hate their husband or whatever it is, you know, but then it has all these other anti-aging effects like anti-cancer, anti-osteoporosis, healing the heart. And then we can look at peptides, right? Because the peptides I like because they're amino acids, right? So that's pretty natural amino acids. It's just not enough amino acids to be a protein. Okay, cool. And the thing that I like about the peptides is that they're very effective. Well, that's my personality. I'm like, is it natural and is it effective? Because I don't want to be like, well, it makes sense that this should be helping. I want to see that it's helping. So if there's anything that I'm doing, even a supplement that I'm giving, it's because I've seen clinically in a reasonable amount of time the desired results, right? Because that's just my personality. I'm like, I'm now. I want to see it now, you know. But you know, like within reason. So I would say do the foundation, glucose, insulin, detox gut, then the healing IVs, and then we look at hormones and peptides, and that's just like the cherry on your sundae of longevity, you know.
I love the analogy there. Well, here's the thing. So it's amazing because now we can talk about hormones, and so there's male and female hormones are different. You know, we have different ways of operating. There's also for ladies, you have the perimenopause, you have menopause. Different, age groups can have different responses. The hormonal, I guess impact is one thing. I mean, you mentioned something about vitamin D earlier, and if I'm not mistaken, and correct me, Doc, I believe that vitamin D is not really a vitamin. That's what I was told.
It's
Is
more
that
of a
is that
hormone.
actually? It
Yeah.
is a hormone. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was told right. Okay, yeah, but we see like so, and most of us are lacking vitamin D, and we're not even getting
Everybody.
enough
I
of it.
mean, it's crazy, right? Yeah, because I only live in like hot, sunny places. I never see a good vitamin D, and everyone's like, "Oh, I have a landscaping company." I'm like, "You have no vitamin D." You know, like it's like nobody has any vitamin D, and I don't know if you have any theories on it. I have a couple. One is they do a lot of they spray with those fake clouds, right? And I'm like, you know, right? Like I don't remember
Dust and
them
whatever they call it, cloud seeding or something, or yeah,
chemtrails, climate
yeah, chemtrails,
trails.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a very cool documentary, if it's still on Amazon, called Climate Trails. I've sent some clients that are pilots to go watch that because they wanted to fight about it. I'm like, I don't want to fight with you. Like, just go watch this documentary and then we'll talk about it later. You know? So
Isn't
that
that
so
something?
and then the sunscreen, right? The whole sunscreen thing. I am not a proponent of sunscreen. I'm a proponent of sun and not eating seed oils.
Well, doctor, thank you. I mean, CETOs, we know. I mean, we didn't know, but now like it was like the thing, right? These oils, what do you call it?
They said it was
Vegetable
like a
oil,
health
or
food, right? Canola
yeah, it was a
oil.
healthy thing. Yeah, but now more we're learning about how they are made. They're bleached. They're basically
Very
just your oil,
chemical.
your engine, your car engine oil, with the disguise, right? It's amazing. Like I mean, how did it even happen to get us to this point? Talking about the SPF business, right? I mean, people actually, I see people that they have so much stuff on them that they look like a ghost, with the creams on, right? Yet, they're blocking all that nice little. I mean, again, obviously, you don't go into a box and get a UV. Yeah, I mean, UV. Blast on your skin for like an hour, you're gonna get burned. But certainly, you need a certain amount of that to get your skin to operate, right? But those are the things like most of us didn't know about this. I mean, I know about this more because I'm in this business now and I learn about this from experts. But before that, to me, whatever we were told is what we see in the movies, what we were told by the doctors, what we were told by the people that didn't know anything better than us, right? And so, yeah, you,
Right.
you cover yourself. You need to, get the best SPF thing, so you don't get any of the sun. You're gonna get skin cancer. Now we're talking about like they have not met one case where I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone can correct us here, but that actually was related to the UV stuff because most people have their faces exposed to the sun every day. See? And that's not where they have melanoma and all the other stuff. So I mean, those are some of the things that now we hear about. Like, what the hell's going on in this world? I mean, it's nuts enough. And but here's the thing: we don't have to blame the world for that. We just have to blame ourselves for not doing the right thing, and we can do ourselves the right thing by finding the right resource. And by the way, a lot of the stuff they're talking about is you're basically going to the basics and to the foundation of things, and again going to the root cause of things. I mean, if
Right.
we clean our gut, we're happier. And that's the other thing, like talking about business, for example, we all are exposed to stuff. I think also the culture of our world today is different. We wake up way early to go to work, you're stressed, you come back, you want to entertain, you go to gym late. So our systems are all changed, and for most of us, we can't get out of that race, or that rat race as we call it, right? We just stuck into this loop. Like it's almost like a bad nightmare, and you're just stuck into it and you can't get out of it. But we do individually have the ability to make changes in our lives. We can make choices. We
Yeah.
can choose to be healthier. We can choose to go to the gym at a certain time. We can choose to walk in the sun. We can choose to eat the right stuff and not eat all the processed food and things like that. So it is up to us. It is up to us to actually see someone like yourself to assist us, because we're not experts. And when you don't know, you ask the experts, right?
Right.
So thank you. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and guidance is nice too. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but how many times have I signed up for things and just never done them because I get busy and I get distracted. So it's also nice being held. And like the mind, loves to complicate things, and things don't really need to be that complicated. It's like it's the mind will go, oh, that's too simple. Oh, no, you can't reverse aging and disease. It's got to be more complicated. I've got to do all these big giant machines and stuff. But literally, I have people that don't even do the IV and the higher portion of my program. And they just do these foundations, and they're like weaning off of their blood pressure meds in like 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I had a guy that couldn't go and check his mail without getting short of breath. And then in a couple months, he was hiking with his family in the woods. So like these things that people want to shove aside and skip and just do the IVs, like these are what's healing you. And it's the synergy together. Because do I have other colleagues that do similar IVs, and they do like way more than I do? They do like 40 IVs. Do they get the results? No. Right. So it's the synergy, right? That's why I tell people, if you want to work with me, like you got to give me like a 7 out of 10, because I can't be you and eat for you and do nervous system reset for you. Like you got to meet me like more than halfway. But if you do, you're gonna get results, right? But you have to be ready to do it. And sometimes it's just about timing. And sometimes I think people that, like, maybe this is a theory, but sometimes I think that people think that they're not worth it, like spending the time and the money on them. When I get a lot of givers, like patriarchs and matriarchs that come to me. But it's like, hey, if you're the center of the wheel, then it's really important that we take care of you, right? Because like if you go down, like that's going to affect all these people. So if you can't do it for you, which I wish you could, do it for your family and your employees, because they love you and they want you to be okay. And hopefully you get there where you have like that self value. But I see that a lot, where people are so self sacrificing, but then that wears and tears on the body too.
Thank you, Doctor. That's a very powerful, piece of the discussion here. I mean, first of all, I know, for example, you have pretty much reversed your own pre-diabetes, right?
Yeah,
You kind of work that, right? And for someone that's watching and listening right now, they might think it's too late.
it's
As you
not.
just said now, some people like,
No.
it's not. I can. Is it? That's the thing. Like, at any given point, we can do something about things, and we just have to start, right?
Right.
But so what's the formula? I mean, anyone at any point can turn things around, or is it like
Yeah.
a point of no return?
No, No, because I've worked with people that have already had heart attacks. They got this weak little heart pumping at 20%, and then boom, they get it to 50% in 2 months. They're weaning off of meds. They feel their life force back, right? Obviously, it's nice to be proactive, right? Because no one wants to have a heart attack, get a stent in their XYZ. But even so, then it's more important to get on this because we don't want that to happen again. And we got to heal what already happened, right? But like I said, the body is incredible. It can even grow arteries when you need one. And that's when we're not even trying to heal, right? It's just the body doing what it needs to. So don't get neurotic and think it's too late for you, because we've worked with plenty of people that have had major events, and people, like I'm thinking of one guy, he came in with a really high hemoglobin A1C of like 8.6, and he's already down into the pre-diabetic range in just a couple months. He's off of like 5 medications. He feels like $1 million, and he had had a heart attack in the fall. And so, and he's older. He's in his 70s. He's out playing golf 5 days a week, like living his best retirement life. And we just had to fill in some blind spots for him and kind of guide him, because he was attached to his coping mechanisms and his habits, right? And so it's also just, you got to have like that learner, that student's mind, right? Because just because we've always done things a certain way doesn't mean that another way might not work for us, right? So it's just because the mind loves an identity too. It's like, ooh, I'm a night owl. Yeah. No, don't say that. They're going to love that. They're going to grab onto that. Don't say I'm or I do or whatever, anything that you don't want to actually claim, right? Because your mind is listening in the background. It's going, oh, yeah. Yeah, like, oh, I have a sweet tooth. No, don't say that, because the mind is going to hang on to that in the unconscious, and then you're going to be snacking.
It's funny, but it's true. Like the mind is powerful, right? It actually coordinates everything for us. Then what are some of the mistakes that people make when they try to improve their health? I mean, we all are, I think we're trying, but that's one of them. It sounds like if we keep saying to ourselves, I don't want to change my habits because this is my style. I
Yeah.
think it's a major lifestyle change to really be better and healthier. But thank you for giving examples of people that have gone to the extreme and back.
Yeah.
I think I already know people that can use your
Have
program,
hope.
because
Have
I know.
hope. There is a doctor that came from Las Vegas to work with me, and he's like the sweetest guy. He's like a Boy Scout. He's like so wonderful. And he had already had a major event, and he was kind of a hot mess and desperate when he found me, because he did everything. So he went to cardiac rehab. He did everything they said. It made his blood pressure worse, his blood sugar worse. They told him no fat, high carb diet. Everything got worse. But he's such a studious guy that he's like, okay, I'm gonna do what you say. But like it's the opposite of what you should be doing. If you're someone like me and you're talking to these people all day, you're just like, you want to like get a tissue box out, because sending people down the wrong road. He literally signed up for me. He was going to start the next week, and in between starting, he passed out on his cardiac stress test and was hospitalized for erratic, out of control blood pressure. And I'm going, wow, okay, here we go, right? Like this is how unstable this poor sweet guy was. And he was like the best student. He came to every class, came to every nervous system reset. He was like on it. And in 3 weeks, his cardiologist weaned him off of one of his blood pressure meds. Can you believe that? That he had gone from that to that in 3 weeks, and the ultrasound his kidneys, because he was getting some low grade kidney failure that happens with the meds and the high blood pressure sometimes. Gone, kidneys perfect. So like, and that was just in like 3 weeks. And I was kind of going, well, what else is he gonna do? We might as well try and try and help this guy. And like, so just, and then those were his words. I have hope again. And so for other people, like, it can happen for you too. Like, don't worry if you're thinking like, man, there's nothing for me. Because I was kind of like, well, seems a little like, but he's really willing and he doesn't have any other options. Let's do this. And he got great results. And he's not the only one like that. There was another lady where I was like, I don't know if I should work with her, right? Because she was, clinically what we call a hot mess, right? And she just had it all going on, and she was in a wheelchair and on all the meds and all the side effects, and I couldn't believe that in 3 weeks she told me that she threw her wheelchair away. like
Oh,
like she had weaned off of her like steroids that she had been on forever for chronic pain, weaned off of like blood sugar medication, and got up and threw her wheelchair away, and she didn't need her husband to help her get in and out of bed anymore. And that woman just did the basics.
Oh, well, doctor, it's amazing that i- these are results that everybody would want in their life. I mean,
And they
certainly,
can get them.
and and what you're saying is that it's not complex. You're really giving them the basic elements. They're resetting their bodies, and now their body is resilient enough to actually just kind of retake, its own back formula, the way it's supposed to be intended to actually live, right? So it's not difficult. And the time frames that you're referring to, they're not really, I mean, you can be on meds for years and still be the same, not feeling anything. In fact, it's probably going to get worse and worse
Yeah.
because the side effects of drugs can be there as well. This is like almost reversing the problem, or stopping it, sudden death stop, and then now you have a reclaim in your life. That's a sweet place to be. I mean, I think if you're watching and listening, folks, I mean, this is it. I mean, we want this, and we just need to learn more about it. And I guess nobody's pushing it, to us. Hopefully, now we have Dr. Mel, and she can guide us through the process. Now, what's up? What are some of the steps that people should take, to get started with you, for example, if they needed to?
Well, yeah, you could go to my website, Dr. Melanie, Melanie Icard. And on there, I have a 20-minute masterclass that kind of explains the process, and an opportunity to book a complimentary strategy session, right? There's also, we do a live webinar like at least once a month. So there's a link on there if you want to just jump on the next live webinar, and then there's time for questions at the end. And for people, because this happens a lot, because I think we get people that are mirrors of us, right? So I get a lot of people that like they're busy and they don't have time to commit, and so I do a 4-day immersion retreat in Sedona, Arizona, and that actually has 2 sets of these heavy lifting artery healing IVs, and then we take you through the whole process and we give you the map and the skills. You don't have to wonder what to eat. I'm going to feed you what you should eat, when you should eat it, and it's going to be delicious, right? So we take you through the whole thing, so you leave with a map and your health coach, to kind of help you make sure you stay on track when you leave. So those are the couple options to work with us. Like, we do the coaching all over the place, and then a lot of people will choose to do the hybrid where they will fly into Scottsdale and do that set of IVs. So if you've had an event, you have plaque, or you're just super, super serious, that's what you want to do. And it's not like a whole big production. Like, I just need you in clinic 5 times. The protocol literally should take 2 months, maybe 3. And that's what all of my typical people are. So you're gonna get measurable results in like 2 to 3 months, and you'll probably start weaning off your meds in the first 2 to 3 weeks.
So, like, if someone cannot make it to Scottsdale, for example, and is there a way to work with them remotely and give them the guidance and they can do it on their
Yes.
own?
Yes. So we do a coaching program. And like that lady that threw away her wheelchair, that's what she did. I have another lady here in Florida, that she did that. And her mother had dementia. She's like, not me. So that's why she joined. And, and actually the coaching program was born for her, because she's like, I want to do your program. I don't want to go to Scottsdale. So I said, okay, let's try this. And she had previously had a high calcium score and mini strokes and like this and that and the other thing. And a fun thing that she found out was, like, she thought she had this innocent habit of chewing sugar-free gum. It was spiking her blood sugar. She was chewing this all day, every day, and until she was measuring, she didn't know it was spiking her blood sugar. And that's why everyone has to do this, because you always get surprises. And it was crazy because this woman was so good, and then everything went wrong in her life. Like, it was like a country song. Her mother passed away, her father passed away, and then her dog died in like 3 months. I'm like, you're kidding me. So lots of grief, lots of heavy cortisol. I think she was hitting the wine and the cupcakes. No one will blame her. And so, but then she got the triglycerides back, not liking it. And then she got the calcium score back, not liking it. I said, don't worry, we're just going to reset. So what did we do? Back on the detox, back on the glucose monitoring. I made her go do Tai Chi. She's like a new woman. Like, her face looks different because it's not as like uptight, right? And so then she's still going crazy because she's nice enough, but she's a little neurotic, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to send you to do this Clearly AI imaging, so you can see for real what's going on. Because right now, like, calcium scores vague and confusing, like triglycerides, like that's just because you were eating cupcakes, like, like not a big deal. And so we had her go do it, and it was crazy because she had less than 1% plaque, like 0.9% in all of her arteries, and less than 1% calcium. I couldn't believe it. And of course, then she goes, she can relax. And she just did the coaching. So people do get results with just the coaching, even with a lot of
What's it?
grief and a reset.
Well, I think a lot of folks are stressed out no matter what in their business, work, and environment, everything else.
Welcome
But
to
so here's the
life.
question: now resources, right? They still have to do the lab work, and they still have to find the right ingredients to get. So how easy is it to give them the tools to operate? For example, if you're not, let's say I'm on East Coast and I need to go and get the lab work,
Right.
do
It's
you give
pretty
us those?
easy.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Hmm.
easy, except for people in New York. New York has all these crazy regulations. So a lot of times when we work with people in New York, we try to see if we've got like a cousin in New Jersey or something. So New York is a really hard state to work with, but there is like a national holistic lab hub that they've got practitioners in every state. So we can send you the holistic labs, and that's really easy. We can send you all of the specialty supplements. And then we do the live classes, the live nervous system reset together as a group. We do quarterly liver cleanses and parasite cleanses, which are also important. And yeah, and then maybe one day they want to come, to the retreat and get a whole reset.
Well, thank you. Now, what about people outside of the country? Like, they because this is a global show, so people are going to be watching it. Can they still get the coaching, get the stuff, and maybe even get prescription? Well, some countries they might not even need that. They can just go to lab and get it done.
Right. We can get them the list of the labs, right?
Mhm.
And the one thing I would have to check with one of, because there's this really key supplement that I do. It's called Merigen, and it's an anti-orbital ionic calcium. It sounds so boring. It's like the best thing ever on earth. So basically, and it's actually a pillar of what we do, because it basically goes in and it scoops up rogue calcium. So calcium adhesions, calcium gunking up intracellularly, and it puts it back into the bones and the teeth. Right. So this is really key in everything aging, but also cardiac, because we get calcium in the arteries, right? We get arrhythmias, that's calcium, like misfiring signals, right? But it's great for metabolic stuff. It's anti-cancer. I actually learned about it at this holistic cancer seminar I like to go to every 2 years. And it was so funny because I was like, this sounds so boring. I don't care, right? Then boom, they start slapping up like before and after imaging in labs. I'm like, where is their booth? And here we are like 8 years later, and it's never ceased to like amaze me. So that's the only one. I'd have to email them about, on a case by case basis about the shipping, because that is really key.
Well, thank you. Well, here's one thing that I can still see. I mean, first of all, talking to you right now, the energy level is so high. So I know that it's working for you, whatever you do, and the formula works. But also, I think when someone is completely cleansed inside, right, and
Mm-hmm.
energized, it also talking about anti-aging. I mean, this stuff does work. I mean, your skin, your cellular, degrading is going to be much lesser. So that means you're going to enjoy your skin and your health and your facials and your bones. And like what you said, you can put some calcium back into your bones and teeth. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you're not gonna
Yeah.
have frail bones. That means you're
Yeah.
not
Don't
gonna
break a
have
hip.
that. Yeah, and that's a big problem as we age. So it's a risk factor. So this stuff, really talking about longevity, this is like again, I just had a show literally before about longevity, and I refer to it as a fountain of youth. This is the second fountain of youth today that I that I'm discussing
Yeah.
because really, while those things are myth, just myths and in the movies, this is the real thing. This is something that can make a difference.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon for like my guys in their 70s to say that they feel 20 years younger. I had one guy that went home and just built a new house. He said, I never would have done it. I never would have had the energy to do it until I went and saw you. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So we can like redefine and rejuvenate retirement. Instead of like a bucket of pills and doctor dates, it could just be doing what you want, right?
That's what everybody would want, right? You want to have freedom, you want to have flexibility, you want to have the ability the agility to move about and around and do stuff and just feel as no one wants to feel that they're limited in their activities and
Or that
actions and movement,
fear,
right?
right?
Yeah,
Like that fear and
yeah, and
anxiety.
then
Yeah.
and you don't want to be in the hospital. That's definite. You definitely don't want to catch dementia because then you lose everything. I mean, it is when you see somebody with dementia, it is a very difficult place to be.
It's
You
hard
know,
on the
so
caretakers too. It's really hard on, it seems like. I mean, I haven't personally been in it, but I've been on the side on the sidelines. And another thing I started doing that I am going to add in, because I'm always evolving it. I'm a super nerd, right? So I'm always learning. checking things out and stuff. So I've started doing the noble metals. So I've started doing a nano combination of like gold, silver, magnesium, zinc, indium, even bismuth, and I take that every day. Like I hold it on my cheek for 20 seconds or so, and then I swallow it, and then I do a spray on my face, and this makes us more conductive. It goes straight into the cells, right? It's for everything that we need. And I really feel like that's the next level of healing because we are biochemical energy batteries.
I'm sorry, it's funny you said that. You remind me of the Matrix, right? So the machines take humans as their battery, source of energy. That's funny. But it's true. I mean, we are energy, right? We're literally that's what it is.
Everything.
It's amazing. Well, listen, Doc, I know we can spend another, half hour easily on this discussion. It's powerful. So I want to thank you for being with us and sharing a lot of nuggets here and really stuff that is powerful that can make a difference in people's lives. And I'm be the champion here and really forward some referrals to you because I do think, I might even consider myself because I think, getting optimized is something that we all need to do for ourselves. So that's important
Yeah.
you know so yeah, anything you want to leave our audiences with, before we close our show today?
It's just that the body can heal itself and it's never too late.
Simple. I love it. Well, there you have it, folks. We can heal at any time. Don't give up. We have a resource. Let's actually catch up with Dr. Mel in her website and see what we can do to get this started, whatever we are. That being said, I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show on topic.